We'll start this one. Compute resources. So under my Azure portal, okay, I created one resource group, and under that resource group, I've created a subscription. Sorry, not subscription. Azure Workspace, Key Vault and Insight, and Azure Storage. All these will be created, right? Under this subscription. Okay. Now, with all these details, I've created one resource group, and under that resource, I'm creating a machine learning resource, right? Now, once I open the machine learning studio, I'll go here in Azure Machine Learning Workspace. It will give me an option to launch the studio. Once I click the launch studio, it takes me to this page, Azure Machine Learning homepage. Okay, where we have all these options to work with the Azure Jupyter Notebook, to create automated machine learning scripts, create machine learning designer using all kinds of data validations, algorithms, all as a flow chart in a designer. Okay, data set. Here we can import multiple data from multiple resources and also from cloud, Azure cloud or AWS, everything. We can keep it here in Azure dataset and we can refer it during our machine learning. We can create experiments based on our different models and algorithms. We can create different pipeline for running those experiments. Once we run those experiments using these automated pipelines, right, we'll have something called model, right, the output, which are trained on some data. Now those models can also be exposed as service endpoints. Okay, now all those things what we are doing is under a compute resource, which is our compute VM. We can create different environments, dev, UAT and production based on our requirement. Data stores are nothing for storage. Data labeling we can use for data labeling, and link services if you want to call any link services. Fine. Now once Azure Machine Learning Studio is open, you can go to compute, right? Under that we can create new compute instance, which I have already created. I will show you with this VM. I'll select this VM. Okay, 2 cores, 14 GB RAM, 28 GB hard disk, right? So this VM is created. Currently it's in stop state. I can click start and it will start the VM. Once the VM is started, under this user I have to clone this Git repository, which is for project related hands-on. Okay, so these are all the Jupyter notebooks which will be cloned from this GitHub repository, and it will be cloned to my virtual machine for data science. Okay, under this compute resource. Now here you can see all this has been cloned, and I can see it here. And then I will stop my VM because I do not want to incur any extra cost when I am not using this VM. Okay, now let's start this VM and move to the second hands-on, which is use automated machine learning. So while I'm into Azure Studio and while I'm starting my compute resource, okay, I'll go to compute clusters and I will start creating these clusters, okay, based on these specifications. So here within home I have something called compute, which is starting, right? Now what it is asking me to go to compute instances clusters tab, right? Compute cluster tab. I'll go to compute, and in the compute cluster I'll just create new cluster. Okay, within the same region it's a dedicated one, right? This is asking dedicated one, CPU based with this standard version. So this is CPU based, it is the same standard version. I'm selecting with 4 cores, right? Enter a unique name for compute, right? And maximum number of nodes should be 2, idle seconds before, scale down 120. Okay, so this is when I will my VM is not used for 2 minutes, it will go into idle state for scale down. Okay, so this is what I have selected. I'll click next, then I'll set the computer name. This is my cluster, right? So I'll just name it ML cluster, compute cluster, I can name it. Cluster. Okay, then maximum number of nodes. Maximum number of nodes I have to keep is 0. Minimum number of nodes I have to keep 0, and maximum number of nodes I have to keep 2. I'll just increment the maximum number to 2. Idle second before scroll down is 2, 120, and then I'll just hit create. I'll not enable SSH based access. Fine. So this is creating the cluster for me. I'll pause the video. Once this cluster is created with all these specifications, then we'll proceed. Okay, now you can see our cluster is created successfully, right? Here you can see the details of the clusters with this standard VM, right? Voice type as well. Okay, all these informations are there. Resource group name, workspace, region, number of nodes, all these things you can see from here. Fine. Now coming back to our hands-on. So now after that cluster is created, we have to create a data set. So we have to take that data from this resource or URL, which I have already opened in the web browser. Okay, and these are comma separated values for diabetes patients. Okay, with header column indicating the attributes and the values here, right? Now in Azure Machine Learning Studio, we view the dataset page and do all these things. So I'll go to the ML Studio, go to dataset page. Okay, it's asking me to create a dataset, right? So click on create a dataset from local files, from data store, from web store, from open dataset. Now here it's asking me to create new data store from local files, right? So first I have to save this as a local file. In the text editor, I pasted this data. I'll save it. on the desktop, or maybe I can put it in my projects folder, right? Just create one folder for Azure. Under that I will save it. Okay, now let me close this, close this page as well. Now let's import this data. Okay, so from local files, this is what the data set, diabetes data set name, tabular diabetes data, right? It's a tabular data and diabetes data as a description. But next, select or create a data store. I can select currently selected data store, right? So same data store I will just select Azure ML Workspace. Okay, block store. Now I have to upload the files, right? Browse to the diabetes.csv file you downloaded from your database. Leave the default section and skip data validation. So I'll just upload file which I saved into Azure ML project. I'll just rename it. Let me open this location first and rename the file. Let me cancel this for now. Diabetes.csv, right? Let's upload this. Fine. So here this file has been imported. Skip data validation. Click next. File format and all those things it's asking, right? File format is delimited, comma separated values with UTF-8 encoding, and only first file has the headers, right? So this is delimited with comma separated UTF encoding, right? And only first file has headers. Skip rows none, right? Then next. No schema to display. Profile this dataset after creation, right? Do not profile the dataset after creation. I'll just create this. So this diabetes dataset has been created. Here you can say, right? If I'll click this, we'll be able to see the data. Explore, right? In tabular form, we will be able to see this data with all the columns, IDs, patient IDs, all those details that we saw in the CSV file. We'll be able to see that. Okay. Now it's asking to run an automated machine learning experiment, right? We explored this. Now let's start automated machine learning. So now we have to go to Azure ML page, right? Automated ML page, right? So let's go to automated ML page. Here we are, new automated ML run, and with all those details. Database we have selected is the empty dataset because we uploaded that. Let's select this one and then click next. Now run configuration we have to set. So now we are creating with that dataset a new experiment, right? So let's use these values for configuration run configuration. It means auto ML diabetes. So I'll put that here. Target column is diabetic, right? This is the label that model will be trying to predict. So this is the column we are going to build whether the patient is diabetic or not. So 1 or 0 labels. Now select compute type. Compute type is compute cluster, and then select Azure ML compute cluster. Clusters we have already created. We'll select the existing cluster. Now task type and settings classification. We'll be doing the classification, right? Because this is a classification problem. We'll be classifying a patient whether he or she is diabetic or not, right? Now enable deep learning regression time series forecasting. We are doing the classification. So we'll select the classification, select the view additional configuration settings to open the additional configuration. We'll go back. Here view additional configuration. We'll select AUC weighted. This is the algorithm to measure whether the model is performing best fine or not. Explain best model, right? The metric used to optimize the model. Okay. Automatically shows explainability on the best model created by automated ML. You can always click on these icons to see a short description of what these parameters are. Okay. Now this is OU selected, explain best model selected, right? Blocked algorithm, leave the default settings, exit criterion 0.5 and metric score threshold is 0.9, right? These are the time till which my job should be running to find out a proper working model. Okay, if model takes more than that time, then our compute job will stop, the experiment will stop. Now metric score, so if the metric score is more than 0.9, that means our model is sufficient to be used. Okay, select the view featureization setting to open featureization. Okay, so before that, exit criterion, right? 0.5 and 0.9 training job time. Yes, 0.5 and metric score threshold is 0.90. Fine. Select the view featureization settings to open featureization. First save it. Now view featureization settings. Here we have selected all these, right? We are predicting data, diabetic target, right? Now under that, this causes Azure Machine Learning to automatically process the feature before training. So enable featureization. So we have This is already selected. We have included all these for featureization. Accept this now. Now save this. Next, validation type. Go to next. Validation type. Train validation is split, right? So to split our data into the training and validation sets, and then percentage of validation data should be 30%, right? So we'll select train validation split, and this we are incrementing to 30%. Automated machine learning recommends that between 10 to 30% of the data is held out for validation. So this will be raw data which will not be included in our model creation. It will be used for validation only. Okay, model training. It will not be used for model training. 30% of data will be separated for validation. Now provide a test data split, test data set preview. Okay, no test data set required. And that's it. Finish it. Now creating a new automated ML run. So this is creating an automated machine learning execution or the experiment. Okay, currently it's showing not started. Okay, now this experiment has been named like this. You can always change the name of that experiment later. When the run status changes to running, view the models tab and observe each possible combination of training algorithm process stride and performance for resulting model. The page will automatically refresh. We will use the refresh. Okay, now might be a good time for coffee break. Wait for the experiment to finish. So this is telling us to take a coffee break. So let's pause this recording. So I wanted to show you something. So currently now it's showing that our model is being set up for run. Okay, now here is submitting that data along with the automated split of data, right? We did 30%, 70%. 70% data will be used for training and 30% for validation. It's running the validation with the classification algorithm, right? It's going to take some time. In the meanwhile, let's go for a coffee or break. I'll pause the recording now.